Hello there, thank you for staying with us. Time now to review the news, but I shall quickly run you through the newspapers. Headlines just quickly. We'll start with the Ghanaian Publisher. A lot of you have been asking why the Attorney General discontinued this particular case. Now he's been speaking, and the details of it is on page 3. He says that no theft, no personal gain. The AG has been speaking particularly on the former finance minister and founder of the Unibank, Dr. Kwabena Bomfeh. Story is on page 3. And then on to, as the NPP is threatened to January 31, place your confidence in me. Bawumia has been speaking. Story is on page 2. And then the minority has been calling for the dismissal of NACA bosses. I'm sure you've been following that story about how they believed that the definition for gender was sneaked into the manual, how to define what gender is. Despite they apologizing and saying that they're investigating, the minority is as well calling for the dismissal of the NACA boards. Story as well is on page 8 of the Ghanaian Publisher. In Ghana to host 2026 Africa Real Estate Festival, page 4 of the Ghanaian Publisher. I'll take you to another newspaper this morning. The Custodian this morning, choose a winnable candidate. Can Japan to the NPP? It's getting fierce. The contest is quite getting fierce. And Bawumia as well faces 4 NPP aspirants, NDC, on January 31. Story is on page 3 of the Custodian. Because of the way this headline is couched, you should take a look at the details of that story. And Ghana to host 2026 Africa Real Estate Festival as well is showing up here. Ano Dompre plants a tree to green in Samum Adwejiri as well. And Tampili presents girls' dormitory dining hall at Gushegu SHS. Page 4 of the Custodian this morning. And still a part of the Custodian is advertising for Dr. Bawumia. Brilliant, affable, welcoming. My poor vision, if Kujo was here, he would help me. Modest innovation and action-driven as well. That's it for the Custodian. Let me take you to another newspaper. The Daily Guide this morning, again, seems to have similar headlines. Choose a winnable candidate Japan to the delegates. And as well, there is a by-election that is looming. Ayawasu East by-election, March 3. See page 4 of the Daily Guide this morning. And Ofori-Atta worried of a return. Story is on page 3. Surely you must have heard that he really would love to come to Ghana, but he's quite concerned about how he'd be treated in Ghana. A lot of questions have been raised, particularly on this. The ambassador to the US is the one who's been speaking, and particularly mentioning names of who have been quite concerned about how Ken feels he will be treated when he returns to Ghana, the former finance minister. Story is on page 3 of the Daily Guide. And as well, ex-Maslock bosses faces U.S. court January 21. That's just the day after the former finance minister as well will be facing the immigration court. Story is on page 6 of the Daily Guide this morning. And Supreme Court set guidelines for post-divorce properties sharing. I know that this story is of some concern and interest to a lot of people. You should grab a copy of the Daily Guide this morning. I'll run you through maybe the last paper. Right. I'll take you to myjoyonline.com. What's the new review without myjoyonline.com? And our top story, gold for reserve losses should be in the national budget. This is by the IMF. We'll take time to as well look at that recommendation by the IMF. But basically, that is our big story or top story on myjoyonline.com. Stay with us as we review the news for now. As this is the AM show, time now to review the news. A lot of matters arising. Earlier, I told you that we shall be reviewing a lot of things. And joining me in studio is Dr. Kwabena Bomfeh. He is a lecturer and CEO of Census. Victoria will join us a bit later, but Lomduku Aklija is lawyer, GIMPA lecturer, and also energy expert and as well an author. But we shall start the conversation, and then Victoria will join us later. Good morning, Doc, and good morning, Lom. How are you doing?
Good morning.
Doc, I've seen you already. We've had a conversation this year, but Lom, you haven't been on the show yet, especially for the AM show 2026. I think you reviewed late.
The last time I was here was 31st.
Actually, yes, that's quite a borderline. Has your 2026 started well?
Very, very well. So far, so good. And I'm happy to see my very good friend Kabila today.
Oh, your friends?
We have run
way back.
Okay.
We haven't seen each other for a very long time.
Very long time.
Okay, then some good reunion then.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thanks to you.
Yeah. Let's start off with what Professor Kwabena has been saying. I'm sure you have seen Chairman Wontumi on political platforms, particularly the NPP, campaigning for Dr. Bawumia. And he says that while he acknowledges our laws, of course, he's not convicted. He's just being investigated. He actually thinks that this would deepen impunity. This will allow people to think that, well, if your matter is in court and you haven't been convicted, you can still do whatever you want. Let me know, Dr. Bomfeh, let me know how you feel about it.
I think in the first place, it's useful to note that our friend Kwabena, who is popularly called Kwabena, acknowledges in the post, according to the story that was shared with me and posted on my Joe Online, that the issue he's raising is not necessarily the legal position. It is not an issue of legality, and that it is one of a moral persuasion of a kind. And I think it's a delicate matter, and he has a very critical point that I acknowledge. And I think that the situation he is commenting on and the issues that he is raising would have been more stronger if the case was that the person in question was now assuming a political position to join a political platform after he was charges were brought against him. But in this situation, here is a political actor, okay, and not just a political actor, the chairman of a political party in a region, someone with a certain political flow over a certain period, who is now on his other life or in his other side of doing what he would in this country as a businessman, facing charges. So it becomes a bit delicate. Does he, if you want to push the argument of Kwabena, what he's actually saying is that perhaps my friend and senior from Promotional College, Wontumi, should have by now resigned as regional chairman of the NPP. If you push the argument that Kwabena is making. Well, it is within his right to do so, and I think the point he's making more is looking at the candidate who the person is supporting. And I would share with that position that if I am a candidate, I'll be careful who shares my platform and campaigns for me in my presence. If the person is campaigning for me in my absence, it's a different matter. Because after all, even convicted persons in this country in prisons exercise the right to vote or not to vote. It is their right, and no one takes that away from them. But it is one thing voting for one person and yet another campaigning on your own strength and your own credibility and your own integrity for another person or vouching for that person, especially when he raises issues about what concerns the people of this country: environmental sanity, public trust, accountability, and somebody is facing trial on these charges that relate to these things. It makes his argument get a moral persuasion, as I've alluded to earlier. But the other side of it is that, as he admits, a person is presumed innocent under our laws until proven guilty. So the challenge now is that what if these charges would all fail? Which is a possibility, but we are not there yet. And if you take the other side to say that, okay, well, what if they succeed? And so you are left with those probability of conclusions that we are not yet certain about. But by and large, what I would say is that because of the waned public trust in our political conversations, it is very important that if you are seeking the high office of President of the Republic of our country, you are minded the people you associate with and the people who share your platform. That's what I would say.
Okay, Lom, I'll bring you in, but I just want to show people the video, what triggered the professor's comments. And when I come back to you, maybe you can start from where he says that first. It normalizes impunity. The public is taught slowly and repeatedly that charges do not matter. Accountability can wait. Political usefulness is more important than public trust. This is what he thinks this video that I'm just about to show our viewers will amount to. Take a look.
It is a 2 million pedia. And yes, Madame Funiway. And yes, a mini way in the woku. And yes, a way in a yatin. And yes, a way in a mepenasem. Name mom, dear, I didn't quite over to me at 2 million a mayano. Me poacha constituency executives. I am Council of Elders, me poacha 1 year didn't quite election 2028 or very. Coordinators, me poacha 1 year fanning quite election 2028. Police station, police station, police station, police station, police station, police station, police station. I am 1 year fanning quite election 2028. I am 1 year fanning quite. I am 1 year fanning quite. I am 1 year fanning quite. Mesdames et Kassani Bawiya no Mutie. Enipa numu no a omo petumi ni nyina no omo nyina ya MPP fo omo nyina na ko omo ye na so ba ko pa eno onyakopo ayi ni sai awoso ye flag bearer ye firi ha kopa ebi bi ba besi a kire mesramo Ashanti region as Ashanti regional chairman ade ba ko pa na mesramo Mumma speaking one voice. Let's use our votes to speak one voice. Let's direct ourselves and vote for Dr. Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia. He's our future. He's the future of Ghana. So we are going to vote massively for Dr. Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia. May God bless you all. I love you. I love you all. I love you all. I love you all. We love you.
But at least he says he loves all of you. He said that. That makes you feel better. But Lom, so you've seen the video.
Yes.
Well, how do you feel about Prof's comments and particularly what he thinks can do to people?
I think it's something that I think carries some weight. The reason is simple. First of all, we've already acknowledged that it is not a legal limitation. So we are not saying that because somebody is being tried, automatically we are presuming the guilt of the person, for which reason the person is barred from doing many things. But we know for a fact that politics is about the optics. And the optics matter because it has an impact on how people in the country generally will perceive things. So when he talks about impunity, I can see the reason why he will put it that way, because essentially it creates the impression that until the conviction comes, nothing has happened. Let's take it this way. I think my brother Kabila made a point earlier. Should he, for example, have resigned from his position as a regional chairman because of these charges? Well, perhaps in Ghana that has not been the culture, but in many other places, that is what happens. When you resign, it does not mean that you are accepting your guilt. It just means that you don't want to put a certain cloud of negativity around your office or position. So when he talks about impunity, it comes in the same light, in the sense that it is about the impression. I can't recall any time in recent history where, for example, somebody has been accused of a crime and a party has done its own assessment, for example. to review the information that has been put out to say, we are ready to support you, but please take a step aside. Nobody has done that. None of the parties, to the best of my knowledge. When it happens this way, what it means is that the impression being created is that no matter what, the party will support you. And we've seen this many times. For example, in the last year, many times when people are being accused of one offense or the other, we see party faithful troop to the location. They basically, expressing their views that they think is wrongfully being charged, the person is wrongfully being charged and so on. But the truth is that all of these things are based on the fact that the parties do not take a step back to actually say, let's review the facts that have been put out so far. Which means that in Ghana, every political case has been reduced to NDC MPP. It has been reduced to, because I'm not from this party, that's why I'm being tried. It has been reduced to, there's no basis for the charges. I'm only being tried because it's not my party in power. And guess what? All these kinds of views have been expressed over the years, and because of them, you see that people don't have belief or trust in the public system or the judiciary and so on, because there's a certain fear that nobody will try somebody from their own party. They are likely to only be tried when their party is out of power. So it has become a political game. And that's why
Is there a certain amount of truth in that? That nobody would like to try a person from their political party?
We should try members of political parties because it should be about the rule of law. Yeah. And I guess that's why other conversations have come about in terms of how we select the special prosecutor, how we decouple the Attorney General's office from other offices and so on. But bottom line, in many other jurisdictions, these things still happen. Why does it happen? Even in other countries where members of the same party in office have been found to have breached one rule or the other, there have been trials and convictions. So what is different in Ghana? And that is what I think is at the heart of what Professor Atta is saying. He's saying it's about values. If you have the right values, when somebody has been accused of an offense or crime, you should, for sanctity, let the person step aside. There are thousands and millions of people in the MPP. If Chairman to me doesn't mount that podium, nothing happened. There are many other people in the party.
That's a stronghold for the NPP, the Ashanti region.
Exactly. So it is true. That's what I'm saying, that it's about the optics. You are sending a certain signal that you are supporting him no matter what. When you start this way, what will likely happen, and here I'm just thinking ahead, is that even when he's convicted, the party is still likely to still support him and claim that he's been wrongfully even convicted. And we've heard this many, many times in the past, where even when the conviction as it comes through eventually, there's still a certain sense of, okay, we are not accepting the verdict. In our view, the person didn't do it, but the courts are being manipulated and so on. Which means that we are sending a signal out there that there's no confidence in public institutions and so on. And I'm saying, yes, he may be the chairman of the party in that region, but if he doesn't mount that podium, he spoke for just a few minutes. There are many people who could make the same arguments. He could take the time to clear his name, and he can have all the platforms and podiums that are available to him. So I think that Professor Atta's call is in the right direction. It's not about legality. It's about the optics, and it's about values. And that's why, as I said, in other places, they even go to the extent of even resignation. It's about values. They are not saying they are guilty. They are simply making the point that I don't want to tarnish the office that I'm holding. You are a regional chairman. That's the highest position in a particular region for the party. Every day you go to court, whilst you are being tried, your name is mentioned, the party's name is mentioned, and there's a certain cloud hovering over you and the party that because of something that you allegedly did, the party's name is being brought into disrepute. When you step aside, then that conversation focuses on you and everything you are doing to clear your name. So for me, in that regard, Professor Atta's call is good. And not only in the case of Chairman Wontumi, but across the political divide, even when it has to do with a member of the sitting government currently, I think that we should look at ways in which we can isolate and protect the image that goes with a particular office.
Victoria Bright is a lawyer and an entrepreneur. She's joined us. Vicky, did you have a good weekend?
I did. Yes.
Okay. So Lom thinks that Professor Atta's call is in the right direction. Doc doesn't seem to want to stay far away from that assertion as well. But do you think Prof is picking and choosing? Doc, you don't seem to be far away from it. Neither are you hammering on it that it is the right
I
call.
took a balanced view of it because I felt that, and I think that's essentially what Lom is saying. But I think my point was made. So
quite clear, yes. Do you think that Prof is picking and choosing? I can't, on top of my mind, think about who was being investigated in a particular political party and then still joined a campaign trail and went out to, campaign for their party. I can't, on top of my mind, think. But do you think that, why did he have to start this conversation from here?
Because I guess he feels that it's a dangerous trajectory. Whether it's the first or someone has done it before, whatever, is really immaterial. The issue with individuals facing criminal charges is not really about guilt or innocence at this stage, because we don't know either way. But I think it's really about the message that is sent when accused persons are literally center stage or looming large in these political campaigns. And I think what Prof is doing is trying to draw a clear line between legality and legitimacy. Because yes, it is true that an accused person is presumed innocent in law. But then when you see politicians actively campaigning with individuals who are facing serious criminal charges, I don't think it sends the right signal to the public. And I think ultimately it can weaken public confidence in our judicial system, our justice system. Because what is lawful is not always legitimate to do. It's about values, it's about ethics. And I think leadership must know the difference, between what is lawful and what is legitimate. So I think his warning is very simple, that our democracy here in Ghana must demand a higher ethical standard than the bare minimum that is required by law. So I think that's the message he's trying to. So to me, legality is the floor. That's the starting point. And I think what he's saying is that leadership should aim higher than that. Because what is lawful in court can still end up being corrosive to public trust in our politics. So I think, yes, all in all, I think it's the right thing to say.
But given that these things are perceptions, we're discussing what it can amount to in our minds. If he also takes a step back, for example, the campaign trail that's happening in the Ashanti region, and we don't see Chairman Wontumi, what would that perception also do to the party and to him?
That perception should be, like in other jurisdictions. I know in some of the I don't really like using developed and developing and all those derogatory things, but the more advanced, let me put it that way, countries, things like that, you are set aside until, you are told to step aside, rather, until the matter is cleared. It's not a presumption of innocence, it's not a presumption of guilt. And I think the legal position is very clear to everyone. So all that it should signal is that, well, there's an investigation going on, and until the investigation is completed, it is better if we just allow him to focus on the investigation rather than be following a particular political leader or any one of them around. So I don't think it's a bad thing to do. And, as Norm was saying, it sends the wrong signal that, yes, this is a political witch hunt, etc., etc. And even if the person ends up being guilty, if they are innocent, fine. If they end up being guilty, you still have that question mark as to whether they're guilty because it was a political witch hunt, quote unquote, or they are actually guilty of the crimes of which they have been accused.
Okay. Doug, you're noting a few things. You have a few rebuttals.
See, not rebuttals, but I want us to see this matter as a bit more complicated than my friend, our friend Kwabena is making it look. There is one to me who is not just joining politics after he has been charged for certain offenses. He is already a political actor. He's already there. So it is in the business side of his being that he's facing this. And that's why I raised the question that if you look at the post critically, which I don't fault him for raising, because it's a question about the conversation around our public trust. Should or ought Wontumi have resigned as chairman of the New Patriotic Party in Ashanti region? That question, I flagged it, because at the heart of it is, can you take a backstage? Can you, as Long was saying, spare the party from going through the personal crisis that you are having? Now, I don't want you to say tarnish, but you are facing a question. It is a personal question, a business question. Can you free the party of it by relieving yourself of any attachment so that you can face it and then not bring the party into, sharing in that? That is the question, And then on the other side, what I'm saying is that since this man is there already, he's already on the political platform and has this other side of his being the business side, and he is presumed to be innocent until proven guilty. Now, you say that, go off it. Yes, the optics that we're all talking about here. The moment you take that stage or that position, the presumption also comes that, he's admitting some wrong. And it is not, as Vicky was saying, it's not limited to the global south. You see, we have an ex-convict sitting as the president of the United States of America, convicted of 34 felony, charges in the United States of America. I mean, somebody should have advised him not to even put himself up. Or in Ghana, by Ghanaian law, he could not even have qualified to contest. And that's why I say that we are not, our system is not worse off compared to theirs. We would not even allow him. But he is sitting in the White House as president of the United States. So it's a human thing. And it is a bit delicate than making it look like if the person doesn't mount the platform, it sorts out what our friend Kwabena is saying. The ultimate responsibility, I have said, rests with the candidate. If I were the candidate in this question, maybe I would not allow the person to take the center stage maybe he's taking. And we are different. Perhaps he brings a certain advantage to the ticket that the candidate deems right. And he's exploiting it. Now, overall, for me, the issue of public trust in our judiciary has to do with how the judiciary conduct itself and the narrative we put on it. When we stop talking that a particular trial went on because a certain president influenced in a certain way.
Who are the we?
We, as Ghanaians.
Okay.
And I'm putting myself inclusive. Commentaries that we make. And then we turn around when the tables turn. We are saying things differently. Those are the kinds of narratives that wane or destroy public confidence. But bottom line, as a people, how sincere are we with the things that we say and the things that we are expected to do? No matter how bad or weak our constitution may or might be, how faithful are we to it? That for me is a fundamental question.
So, do you see the thing that Doc is advancing, what he says? I mean, what is different from, why are we so special from a country like the US?
Well, first of all, I think Doc alluded to that point. We have to start off with what the law of the country is. So perhaps in the US, it's possible for Donald Trump to be president today. In Ghana, if you are convicted of certain types of offenses, you will not even be qualified to unless a certain time period has elapsed, which is 10 years. So let's start from that point. First of all, it's a jurisdictional issue. Secondly, we've already made this point that it is not about legality. So let's put that aside. We are talking about whether as a maturing democracy, there are things that we should be doing. So when you situate it that way, you realize that, as again we say, it's about the impression it creates. And I'll give you, so for example, in 2006, Dr. Richard Anani, who at the time was the Member of Parliament for Nshaisu, he was found in a certain situation where it was alleged that he had used resources to pay for someone's travel and so on, which triggered an investigation by Shraj, and he was under intense scrutiny. The kind of, as we've talked about, let's say, focus on a particular person where, because of something you've done, it is bringing your reputation, your office, and the party into disrepute. At the time, Dr. Anani, he resigned. He went through the court process. Eventually, the Supreme Court ruled in his favor, and he was reinstated. He was Minister of Roads and Transport at the time. So what we are saying here is that it's not about whether indeed there will be a conviction or not. We are talking about what is right to do in these circumstances in a democracy that is maturing. So if in 2006, Dr. Anani could resign and eventually came back to his same position about a year later, what is wrong if we call for Chairman Wontumi to do similar? Even if we are not even talking about resignation, but the fact that the candidate allowing him to take center stage in the campaign.
That's the issue.
Exactly. So we've been on this fourth Republican Constitution from 1993. We're in 2026. You are running for the highest office, ultimately, because this candidate in particular is hoping that when he does win, he will represent his party,
the next
national.
Elections.
So it is important that you send the right signals. And the signals are that when somebody has been accused of certain criminal activity, we are not saying the person is guilty, but we will not also put the person center stage in our campaign. Two, it also gives the impression to the public that you are supporting that person regardless. And as I said, we've had a long history where every time somebody is arrested or being accused or invited to Yoko, party faithful mass there. In fact, the leaders also go there. So in this particular instance with Chairman Wontumi, I recall that Dr. Baumia also went to Yoko. Yeah, support him because he's not done what they accuse him of. Do you know the facts? Have you seen the evidence? And that's why I said that in other places, one of the things that the party will do is that they will do their own internal investigation. And if they see that it's more probable that some wrongdoing may have gone on, they will encourage you to resign. And if you don't, they might ask you to step aside. But that is the party perspective. Yeah. But for the person in question, they also on their own can do or take actions that will actually save themselves, the party, all this conversation we are having here today. So the call for that not to be happening now is in the right direction because, as I say, it's an evolving and maturing democracy. And where we are today, it is not a right signal to send for the candidate to put someone who has been accused of such offenses center stage in their campaign, regardless of whether he's in a stronghold, regardless of whether he's a party chairman in that region or not. We don't expect these optics. Otherwise, you send a signal to the grassroots that whatever they accuse him of or whatever has been alleged is not true. We support him regardless and so on and so forth. And as I'm saying, ultimately, it will lead to more questions being asked when, in fact, perhaps he's convicted. If he is indeed convicted, it will still be difficult for the candidate to now come and say, I'm not supporting him. And that's where they now start raising questions about this conviction is because of who sat on the case and so on. And that brings the reputation of the judiciary into disrepute. Let's allow state institutions to do their work as they are trained to do, they have the capacity to do. And when you have a situation such as this one, let us not, send the wrong signals and let the person take a backstage.
Yeah. Vicky, I'm actually very happy for us to talk about the removal of the GBA from the Constitution, but because of this conversation, I just wanted to bring in how Ken feels about his return to Ghana. I mean, I followed the conversation by the ambassador to the US, who says that, well, barring everything, people around Ken suggest that he really wants to return to the country to answer questions, but he's quite concerned about how he'll be treated when he returns to Ghana. Why would a former finance minister be concerned about how he'll be treated?
I don't know why he should be concerned, because his co-accused, aren't they all on bail? The STL guys, they're all SML rather guys, they are all on bail, aren't they? So, and also some of his fellow, he's not going to be the first person who is going to be on trial for an alleged wrongdoing. So I don't really understand what he means by that. We are a country that respects the rule of law. And I believe that when the Attorney General spoke, he said that he had personally given an assurance to his US lawyers that he will be treated fairly in this country. And so far, we haven't seen anything to suggest otherwise. So I am surprised that he feels that way. Perhaps if he had come at the beginning, or as soon as he was well enough to travel, then we would not be having this conversation. But there's been so much toing and froing and so much drama around this whole issue that it's now taken on a completely different dimension from where it perhaps could have been if things had just gone on as usual, because other people were also out of the jurisdiction.
Yes.
And they came back to clear their name. So if he believes that he's innocent, he should just come back home and clear his name. Because at the end of the day, people are not sitting on the press in this country. They will be in court with him. They will hear the arguments. They will hear what the judge is doing. They will be reporting as much as they can, because obviously it's limited reportage. But we have an active press in this country. And I don't think if an injustice is being done, they'll just fold their arms and be quiet about it, no matter who it's been done to, because today it could be that person, tomorrow it could be you. And I think Ghanaians feel very strongly about that and have a very strong sense of justice, what is wrong and what is right. So I don't understand why he should feel or why he should have those concerns. And if he does, I guess the ambassador, the Attorney General, everybody has reassured him, his relatives, whoever is concerned on his behalf, of the fact that the rule of law must be respected. I don't think Ghana will tarnish its image of being a respecter of the rule of law for one person. I don't think a whole country's image will be tarnished for the sake of one person. So I think he should come home. He should come and clear his name if he believes he's innocent. And that's that, so that the drama should end. It's too much drama.
Well, Doc, do you see any, maybe for want of a better word, legitimacy in how he views?
Who?
The former finance minister. What has happened?
Did he actually say that, or is the ambassador who is? So
the ambassador says that
impression.
The ambassador says that he's very informed, and he went ahead to mention his relative Gabi Ochidako. That's how Ken feels.
Well, let me summarize my position on these things. In the case of Wontumi, I will advise him that he should take a bit of a backstage. He did that for some time from the political scene. That is my personal advice to him as someone I know from Prempeh College. Ken, I will advise the former finance minister to come back.
That's all.
That will be my advice. But my advice will not end there. This flag of Ghana that we wear, that he is supposed to hold also imposes on the state the duty and the responsibility to do everything the state can to bring him back if need be. But more important for me is to go ahead with the trial. That is where the meat is, whether Ken comes or does not. Once the state is convinced of some wrongdoing, let the state go ahead. And let's look, the drama and the theater is too much.
Too much drama.
Too much theater. And you see, we will have that conversation later. In this, in this exercise of theater, we've created offices in the name of fighting corruption, which were corruptly created in breach of our own constitution.
Which one of them?
Yoko, which was SFO and OSP. You cannot amend Article 88 in Parliament without going through a referendum. But that's what we have done. But that's another matter to be discussed at another level, which I am ready to take up this year anyways. You see, the theater is too much. We've created a police force in both Yoko and OSP when we know that it should not be done. But as I've said, if we want to get things right, let's remain faithful to our calling. Stop the drama. Stop the theater. Yes.
Does it make you feel any better knowing that, of course, they have proceeded, the investigation is ongoing? His coming or not coming has not stopped the investigation.
I beg you. I made this position last week and I maintain that position that, look, educate me if I am wrong, my friends here. Which accused person would want to help you, the state prosecutor, to nail that person? That you say the person should come and cooperate with investigations. The lawyers would even advise the person to offer you information that will not implicate him. That's what they will come and do. So really, you are not expecting him to come and cooperate with your investigations to go and nail him or imprison him. That must be clear to the state prosecution. And when we are clear in our minds about that, we will find other avenues that will strengthen our case so that we go at him once we are convinced that he is guilty. And go and convince the court that yes, these are the facts, these are supporting evidence, and we want you to give us the verdict against him. And that will be done. I believe that if we do that, it will spare all of us this. Every morning, every week, we come and sit down and discuss the same issue. It doesn't help anybody.
But I thought we were saying that government was taking a two-pronged approach.
You said that, and I maintain that. Yes, you said that, and I said that. I said that I disagree with that position because, bottom line, that two-pronged approach will lead to the one, which is that you want to prosecute him.
But there's nothing wrong.
So if the person is not cooperating with you to avail himself, and your important point in wanting him to avail himself is to help you to prosecute him, and you can prosecute him without him availing himself, go ahead with it. What is too big in this to ask?
Okay. Shall I take Lom's view on it? I'll come to you. I see that both of you are on the same view last week. Same views. Yes. Let me hear Lom.
Exactly. So I think we should take first a step back. And I say that because when it comes to the question of Ken Ofori-Atta and his return, we have to squarely put it in a certain context. One of them is that the trial as at now, or the charges that have been filed as at now, are by the OSP and not the Attorney General. Let's put that clearly.
Yeah.
This was an OSP that was appointed during the time when, for example, Honorable Ken was a minister. So it is by the previous government. And so if it's a question about the person, the background, and allegations of whether they'll be treated fairly and so on, we have to put it in that context. Because I believe that the reason why we'll be talking about more treatment or otherwise is because perhaps the prosecution is by another government. But this is not by the Attorney General. It is from the OSP, an institution that was set up under the previous administration. The person holding the office is was appointed during the previous administration. And the way he is conducting the trial or cases now, so far as I'm concerned, has been consistent with what he has been doing before this time. So even that question of will he be maltreated or not, I want to understand the dynamics, because I don't see any new actor in this equation, because the person and the office that is handling that case currently is not a new appointee by this government. So let's put that on in the front and center. Now, when it comes to the prosecution, yes, Doc has said the prosecution can happen with or without his presence. And as far as I'm concerned, that is happening, because just fairly recently we got the information on the news that indeed some individuals have been, invited to testify and all of that. So we know that the trial process is ongoing. But it is still important that every attempt is made to still bring him back. Because even though the Constitution and our laws of Ghana allow trial in absentia, the preferred type of trial is when the accused person is present. So the process might be triggered. How does the Attorney General come in? Which is why I guess there seems to be that mix-up in who is prosecuting and whether it is the government and so on. That's because under the laws of Ghana, it is the Attorney General who is a responsible minister to make the extradition request. OSP cannot make an extradition request. IOCO cannot make an extradition request. The police service cannot make an extradition request. In fact, any request for extradition that does not come from the Attorney General to any other country, like in this case the US, will not be honored, because they will only respect a request that comes from the Attorney General. And that's what is constitutionally mandated and exists within our laws in the Extradition Act and so on. So the reason why the Attorney General has to come in is because the OSP has to request the Attorney General to do so, which the Attorney General has done. But currently, the arrest of the former finance minister was not triggered by the extradition. Let's also make that distinction clear. He was arrested as a result of an alleged violation of immigration issues. That's why his arrest was by ICE. You notice that in the case of Sedina, it is U.S. Marshals. That's a different organization that deals with fugitives from justice. So once those distinctions are made, I don't see the issue about maltreatment or otherwise. But to the extent that the request for extradition has been made, I know that those processes will continue regardless. And so as far as the trial is concerned, OSP should feel free to do what it needs to do, continue, but at the same time, government through the Attorney General will continue to pursue the extradition. And of course, he also can challenge it in the US and so on.
Many have said that we're in this country and there's been hefty bail conditions that you nearly cannot meet. They've used bail conditions, some form of punishment and all of that. Will he be right? We see the nuance and explanations that you're giving us now, but will he be right to feel the way he feels?
First of all, I wouldn't say so. Again, it's good to separate things. Bail is determined by courts of law. A court of competent jurisdiction determines questions of bail. So I've seen heard the narrative that it appears as if it is government that sets the rates. Government doesn't set the rate, nor IOCO and so on, unless it is an inquiry bail, as in within the investigative institution, because police also can give you bail, IOCO can give you bail. So those ones, if we question whether they are hefty or not, there may be some grounds there. But when it comes to a court of competent jurisdiction, then we are talking about the judiciary, and the judiciary will hear both sides. When an accused person makes an application for bail, they will make the arguments to their counsel, and the state, represented by Attorney General, whoever is representing the state, will also make a counter-argument. The court makes a decision. When the court imposes bail, we have to, unless we have reason or evidence to the contrary, believe that the judge considered all the arguments, looked at all the factors, and indeed has given a decision which is based on the facts. Beyond that, every accused person reserves the right to repeal a bail application at any time before the same judge, and even can appeal that decision whether to grant bail or not, or the terms and conditions of the bail. So if it is too hefty, you have recourse within the law to do so. Now, beyond that, we've also seen and heard that the former finance minister in the US has retained counsel. We are talking about a former Attorney General of the United States. Ashcroft is one of the high, you know, we are talking about top flight lawyers and law firms. We are not talking small money here. So for me, there's a certain, you know, tension there, whether
The theater.
yes, if you can afford it in the US, it begs the question whether you'll be able to afford it in Ghana. But that's not even the point. Beyond that, we also know that the former finance minister is one who has, at least when he was holding the office, the image and impression we had of him was that this is a Christian, God-fearing person who always put that scent at the forefront. He never put it at the back end. Everybody who knew him, right from budget presentations, his speeches and so on, knows that he always positioned himself as such. What we expect in this kind of situation, and that's what I believe all my colleagues have said so today, he should avail himself. When he was arrested by ICE, he was in detention. His health was not an issue. They were able to hold him for that period till he was released, pending the determination of that immigration status.
I think he's been transferred.
Yes, exactly. So for me, I think that there's a need to, you know, separate the issues and make it clear that the trial can proceed, obviously, but it will be good that the former finance minister avails himself to answer questions.
I think on this table, all of my panelists are quite clear with their position on the former finance minister. Vicky, let me come to you. So the International Monetary Fund has recommended that.
Add something later.
Okay.
On that.
Yeah.
Before you come to, you see, and I'm happy with the clarity that Long has brought on this. The OSP. When did it occur to the OSP that it will begin a prosecution of Ken for wrongdoing? And I'm saying this not just for the OSP, but for all our state regulatory and bodies that are constitutionally mandated as accountability officers. Public accountability is a daily affair. From the beginning one assumes office to the end and post.
And after, yes.
And in some cases, there are limitations after a certain period when the person has left office. The President of the Republic is not immune from prosecution within the first 3 years after he leaves office. I hope we know that.
Yeah.
The immunity the President enjoys will only be triggered after 3 years upon leaving office. We need to understand that. Now, this OSP that is now prosecuting Ken, when did he realize that Ken had really fallen foul of the law? Remember, in the last year of the Nana Akufo-Addo administration, when he served as finance minister, he was no more a minister.
Yeah.
And these issues that we are talking about, he facing charges for now, could have been brought up at that time. Who stopped the OSP? Of course, I've heard the OSP's office say all sorts of things.
You said he was gathering evidence.
So my point is that don't let us wait till a certain expiration of time or tenure before we say accountability can begin. Accountability is with us every day. Okay. As we are speaking now, I am supposed to be accountable for what I'm saying here. And all of us. And of course, the time you allot us.
Oh, that's true. Vicky, I see you wanted to respond. And said Natamaklo as well. Is it mere coincidence or it's just how the law works, really?
I think it would be far-fetched to think it's a coincidence because they were arrested on the same day. You know, they were arrested, one under the U.S. Marshal system because she has been convicted. And then Ken also, I think they were both sort of detained on the 6th. So, coincidence, I don't know, you know. But this whole, I mean, yeah, maybe I should just end there because as my brother Kwabena said, there's a lot of drama, you know, theatrics, as he calls it, He should just come home and let's just, you know, he should just come home and if he believes he's innocent, come and clear his name.
No, does okay, so well, we know that Sedna Tamaklo as well will be facing immigration courts January 21. That's just a day after the finance minister.
Okay, so this week they are both.
Yes. Does it mean anything to you at all that, she was arrested by the U.S. Marshals? Does it really look like she was invading accountability and justice at all? Does it suggest to you like that?
I think so. I agree with Vicky because
really,
yes, because the extradition request was actually made under the previous administration
last year.
Actually, 2004.
2024, right?
Exactly.
I think it was just after a conviction.
June 2024.
Yes,
just after
exactly. So we are talking about 2024.
Yes.
But again, as Vicky said, because she was convicted and the extradition is based on a conviction, that is handled by the U.S. Marshals. So so basically, U.S. Marshals are responsible for going after fugitives from justice, even in the U.S. itself.
Okay.
So essentially, they were tasked to do this, and they have done it. So her case is not tied to immigration.
That's strange on the same day.
Yes. Well,
because clearly
the U.S. they have a very it's a very interesting coincidence because, in fact, even in the arrest of Maduro, it's interesting to know that he was arrested on the exact same day that several decades ago the U.S. also arrested Che Guevara, who was also leader of Venezuela. I think they like to,
add a bit of spice
to them.
Just to help you, not necessarily so, but we must remember that the U.S. in dealing with some of these things considers that it is dealing with another nation.
Yes.
Of course, in tradition.
So international relations come up.
Yes.
How you conduct yourself with respect to these individuals who are coming from another nation and have ties to other nations, and your whole public view within the Committee of Nations or international.
No, that one is very true. You're so right. Yeah. Which is why one of the reasons or the basis on which you can challenge the extradition is if you can show, for example, the U.S. court that your trial or your prosecution or your conviction is basically
political.
It's political.
And that's why it's a long, rigorous process.
Yes.
Extradition is not an easy.
So it's not straightforward. In fact, Senator Tamaklo and the Ofori-Atta both can challenge the extradition, and they'll go through the U.S. court system to determine that. As we can see also, Abu Trika going through our system before we determine whether to be extradited or not. It's the same thing. So it is possible that if they're able to make their case, and I'm sure that's why they retained the lawyers and so on that they have, they may, if they're able to prove their case there, they may be able to resist it. But of course, we are hoping that that will not be the case and they'll come.
So somebody like Sedna Tamaklo, for example, if she doesn't succeed her case in court, and then they bring her to Ghana, like how? They'll take her straight to Nsawam or what?
Straight, because she's already been convicted in Ghana.
So
there is a conviction in Ghana against her, which she has not appealed.
I think
she was
okay.
Yes, she has not appealed.
Yes.
So she has not appealed her decision, to the best of my knowledge, and so the conviction stands. And to the extent that the conviction stands, she's coming to serve her term.
So why didn't the Attorney General talk about it today? Because he seems to have spoken extensively about the former finance minister.
That's for the Attorney General to answer.
Maybe
but I can
already secured the conviction in one case.
Yes.
This is now, and also Ken's case at this point is purely an administrative process.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think also people seem to have the commentary seems to suggest that you are not doing enough to bring him. So perhaps there's a need to clarify.
But while we ask that, we ask, okay, what about Sedna Tamaklo? What about Sedna Tamaklo?
So that's why I mentioned
Sedinam.
That's
the name is Sedinam, not Sedina.
Well, for some time I've known that it's Sedina.
Sedina, yes.
Sedina.
I know Sedinam is a popular Ewe name, but maybe.
So MFA, the reason I mentioned the date of the request is because it is 2024, which means that we have to assume that the marshals have been looking for her since then. That's what it is, because if they receive the request, they have to go through the process, finding the person, and then the person having the opportunity to defend themselves. So perhaps they hadn't got her all this while. They didn't know where she was.
Her 6th.
On 6th January.
Together with Ken.
Yeah, that one.
I think I'll take
American intelligence.
It looks like they put a bit of power in there. Well, so the International Monetary Fund has recommended that Ghana places the losses incurred under its gold for reserve program on the budget's balance sheet rather than the Bank of Ghana absorbing those costs? Is this something that we agree to?
Say that again.
So the IMF has recommended that Ghana places the losses incurred under its gold for reserve program on the budget's balance sheets rather than have the Bank of Ghana absorb it. This is the 214 million loss that the gold board has incurred. And it says that the BOG shouldn't be the one absorbing it. We should rather spread it across. As a country, we absorb it in our balance sheet.
You want to start with me? I don't think that there's the IMF that should tell us how to balance our books. What I would insist on is that we are transparent. All this is coming at the back of the fact that there was an initial denial of some losses made, both from the Bank of Ghana and the Gold Board. Now it has come up that indeed there was. As to where we will place it, the most important thing for me is to be transparent about it, whether it is a loss made under the under the operations of the Gold Board or operations of the Bank of Ghana. This whole gold purchasing arrangement falls under the ambit or the regulations of the Bank of Ghana, doesn't it? Yes. So the Finance Ministry is the one responsible for presenting to the country our financial situation, whatever it is, based on data that it collects from all these institutions that play a role towards understanding our financial situation. What we need to do as a people is to be transparent and sincere to ourselves.
Okay.
As for the issue of where it is placed, once we are transparent about it and responsible, accountability will follow. I don't subscribe to the notion or the idea or the suggestion where some foreign entity is the one dictating to us as to where and how we should run ourselves. It is our duty. We can run ourselves and even choose to misrun. That is our choice.
Shouldn't we say this after the program has ended because they have an interest in how we spend we use our
Well, we have made them to be interested because we are mismanaging ourselves.
That's the problem.
Okay.
We are mismanaging. We are better off doing things our own way and not allowing them to be breathing on our neck when it is proven. Empirical data shows that any time we have followed the IMF suggestions or advice, we've run ourselves into problems from the beginning of our history.
Mickey, do you agree?
I agree that there should be transparency. I think we can't ignore. If there's a hole somewhere, then it has to be, flushed out and accounted for so that we don't get ourselves into any deeper hole. I haven't followed the story this morning.
Okay.
Just now.
Okay. Okay. Lom, maybe I'll just take a few comments on it from you, Lom.
We shouldn't ignore it.
I think that, well, starting from the Constitution, the Bank of Ghana is supposed to be a very independent institution. And that's re-emphasized in the Bank of Ghana Act as well. And in this particular case, the Go for Reserve program is a Bank of Ghana program, essentially. Yeah. So they making a case that it should be under the national budget is a bit problematic for me. I'm sure the economists can speak better to this, but in my view, it is an initiative of the Bank of Ghana. It is the Bank of Ghana that seeks to increase our reserves to ensure that we have more inflows and better control over foreign exchange transactions and how it impacts our country. And if it is their program, they should sit independent of the central government. So adding it to the central government budget for me will be problematic. And as far as I can see it, it will be better. It is retained under the Bank of Ghana.
Okay.
And also there are some other advantages, as we know. I mean, they are doing it for a purpose, to increase our reserves, to curb inflation, etc., etc. And so when you do everything, when you look at everything in the round, essentially, is it really a loss? I mean, really?
It's still a
when
debate
you look at
because the
some
Gold
of the
Board
things
says
that we are gaining, when you weigh the gains, because it's important not to be tunnel visioned about some of these things, so...
Another
we have to do what works for us.
Another conversation that has come up, well, it started late last year where the GBA, well, now let's narrow it to what the Constitution Review Committee suggests, says that the GBA should be removed from the Constitution. Doc.
I think that my organization is still reviewing the work of the committee. But to be honest with you, so far where we have reached, I'm not too happy with the work that they did. The Constitutional Review Committee. I'm not too happy for a number of reasons. You see, this is a report that they've said it was not the full report initially. We're told that a fuller report was coming. What is now within the public domain? It does not even give a background properly so if you compare to the work of the Constitutional Review Commission of Emeritus Professor Fiajo. And it doesn't give a justification for a number of the recommendations that they have made. But I would want to pause here and say that we are considering reviewing the entire document to come out with our position on what they have said. Bottom line, it is instructive to note that they tried to tease a number of things out of the work of the 2011 Constitutional Review Commission report and left out the justifications for them, apparently owning them. There's nothing wrong with that. We need to go back to it and see what they have said and how it sits well with what people have been aspiring to as far as the work of trying to get a better constitution is.
Okay.
My last statement on this is this. No matter what constitution we decide to be governed by, it is not so much the spirit and the letter, but how we as a people are faithful to what we aspire or choose to be governed by.
Okay. Lom, you've got anything to say on this?
A lot, actually. So, because Doc didn't go into it because, as he said, his organization is still reviewing.
Yes.
But I've looked at that particular recommendation. I've also seen the comments that have come in certain quarters. So, first of all, it is generally frowned upon for the Constitution to favor one organization over the other. This is basic constitutional law principle. So it is true that the Constitution from 93 had a GBA in. But GBA is an association. It's an organization like any other. In fact, myself and my senior Vicky here, we can form a new association today. Lom and Vicky Law Association. What happens if we also want representation on the Ghana Police Council? The Constitution guarantees freedom of association. And many associations can be created in this regard. So what the Constitution has done is that it has given pride of place to the GBA. In other words, it is only the GBA, that is the Lawyers Association, recognized in the Constitution. What the recommendation has done is to say that instead of referring to GBA, you tie it to the law associations or the fraternity. So if at any point in time we know that for this particular position we need a lawyer of a certain caliber or standing, they can pick from anywhere. Recently, we recall just last year when the group that is called LINSOD, Lawyers in Search of Democracy, paid a courtesy call on the Chief Justice. That's a new association. Where is LINSOD in the Constitution? LINSOD is not represented. So what it means is that in all the associations, in all the offices in the Constitution that require lawyers, as at now, is GBA that is appointing representatives to those. Beyond the Constitution, it is also interesting to know that there are several statutes which also had put the GBA in based on this history. So what they have said, and I think it makes a lot of sense, is that if you review our Constitution today, after 30 years and over, using it from 1993, to the extent that there are possibility for other associations, to the extent that there are other organizations, it is inappropriate to single one out to be the only association that can appoint members or send.
Unfortunately, my time is up. I hear you say you have a lot to say on this, but Vicky, let me give the few seconds to Vicky.
I think I agree with Lom's view because, I mean, a lawyer is a lawyer, right? So I think it shouldn't have to be, and I'm sure some of my colleagues will be very upset with me saying this, or both of us for saying this. But I think, it should be broadened. That's all they're trying to do. They're not trying to remove laws.
Demonopolize.
And I think it's fine. It's
Well, we look forward to the rest of your comments. If you're unable to say all of it here, maybe on your socials or anything, we'd like to read that. But Vicky, thank you so much. Doc, thank you so much. This morning we're joined by Dr. Kwabena Bomfeh, lecturer and CEO of Census, who's reviewing the work of the Constitution Review Committee. We're looking forward to that. And Victoria Bright, lawyer and an entrepreneur. Lomnuku Ahalija, lawyer, you'd find him at GIMPA. He lectures at GIMPA and also an energy expert. He's also an author. But the AM show is sponsored by Shield Silicon Paint from Azar Group, Syntax Pipe and Time Herbal Mixture. Fair Sky Group invites the public to its 23rd Thanksgiving service themed proclaiming the mighty deeds of the Lord, taken from Psalm 71:15 through to 16, hosted by the founder and executive chairman, Mr. Eric Sedi Kokuche. Activities begin with an all-night service on Friday, January 23, 2026 at Trinity Temple Assemblies of God, Tema. The main Thanksgiving event takes place on Sunday, January 25, 2026 at the Accra International Conference Center, featuring Reverend Dominic Yao as guest speaker, Apostle General Sam Kranchiankra as chairman, and His Excellency John Dramani Mahama as special guest of honor. Administration of music by Kofi Owusu Pepra. This is the AM show. Please stay. We'll be right back.
Let's welcome the Time Ladies.
Say I'm malaria, when I'm not too far, I'm too so time ever make sure, time ever make sure, time ever make sure, it's really a true, and one day, time ever make sure, time ever make sure.
Onyim ne nneoma no phone to me fedro bi abofra on di fiedumie no entimi fedro ko hospital anasa lab nyenye a 3-day mu nhwehwemu ansa na obetimi anomedro yi bi kayo set time no TIME
ubenya bi ato ewo over the counter medicine sellers
any herbal shop to do na mu
FDA agi edwadue nkrato yi.
Now let me share my wildlife experience with you at Safari Valley Eco Park. Welcome to Safari Valley. Our electric shuttle pulled up, and in no time, our tour began. We were surrounded by wildlife from the moment we entered the eco park. We were greeted by experienced tour guides who took us through orientation and how to better enjoy the experience. Watch these animals roam freely in their natural habitat undisturbed by our presence. We saw zebras, sable antelope, brown cranes, mara, silky chicken, llamas, Shetland ponies, and so many animals I just couldn't keep up. Our tour guides taught us so much about the wildlife, their behavior, and how to interact with them. I even fed them. We also went fishing on a man-made canal. Then we took a break to have lunch in this serene environment. All this amazing experience for this price for adults? This price for teenagers. It's a bargain. As the sun began to set, it was time to go back home, but not before dinner by the campfire. It's been a thrill of a lifetime, and I can't wait till my next visit.
Safari Valley Eco Park, bringing you closer to nature.
Shield Silicone Paint repels water, dispels water vapor, is washable, self-cleaning, and durable. Now, you can appreciate how and why Shield Silicone Paint is super strong and thus able to do what other paints cannot do. Shield Silicone Paint from Azar Group, since 1921.
What does it take to be Ghana's most useful technology company? Is it the fact that we've been connecting businesses to their customers for over 20 years? Or that we power more than 12% of all electronic transactions in Ghana? Maybe it's that we are everywhere, from Accra to Kumasi to Tadi, Cape Coast to Tamale. Or is it that we safely process more transactions than any indigenous tech company here in Ghana? Or we deliver faster, we transfer safer, or we make businesses and life just a little easier? But what truly makes us Ghana's most useful technology company, it isn't the speed or the numbers. It's the people we connect, the dreams we keep moving, the communities we bring closer every single day. You prove every day what usefulness really looks like. We give you the tools, you provide the proof. Haptel, useful.
Shield silicone paint repels water, dispels water vapor, is washable, self-cleaning, and durable. Now, you can appreciate how and why Shield silicone paint is super strong and thus able to do what other paints cannot do. Shield silicone paint from Azar Group since 1921.
Another week is here on the greatest of all time show. My name is Giovanni Clip, and tonight we're bringing you talent. Contestant number 1, let's bring Baby Car. Let's bring. You did it for you.
Cut. Oh, there is a leakage.
Where's the plumber? For quality and durability, insist on Syntex pipes. If you want quality, this be where you belong. Strong, tough, and reliable. Your perfect match to your trusted Syntex pipe. Syntex pipe, it they carry water, no wahala. Syntex pipe, it they make water they flow. Syntex, and you're strong, and you're tough.
Hi, now let me share my wildlife experience with you at Safari Valley Eco Park.
Welcome to Safari Valley Eco Park.
Our electric shuttle pulled up, and in no time our tour began. We were surrounded by wildlife from the moment we entered the eco park. We were greeted by experienced tour guides who took us through orientation and how to better enjoy the experience. Watch these animals roam freely in their natural habitat undisturbed by our presence. We saw zebras, sable antelope, brown cranes, mara, silky chicken, nyalas, Shetland ponies, and so many animals I just couldn't keep up. Our tour guides taught us so much about the wildlife, their behavior, and how to interact with them. I even fed them. We also went fishing on a man-made canal. Then we took a break to have lunch in this serene environment. All this amazing experience for this price for adults, this price for teenagers. It's a bargain. As the sun began to set, it was time to go back home, but not before dinner by the campfire. It has been a thrill of a lifetime, and I can't wait till my next visit.
Safari Valley Eco Park, bringing you closer to nature.
What juice are you taking?
This is Koa Natural 100% cocoa fruit juice.
Can I have a glass?
Of course. Koa
Core Natural 100% cocoa fruit juice is not just your regular cocoa drink. This is an innovative juice made from the pulp of the cocoa fruit. Once the cocoa pod is harvested, the pulp, which would have been previously discarded, this time is set aside, and that is what is used to make your Core Natural 100% cocoa fruit juice. Not only is Core refreshing, the taste is incredible.
Wow. There's no added sugar, no additives, and no preservatives. 100% cocoa fruit juice. Don't worry, you won't be left out.
Wow, this is unbelievable. I would take this anytime, any day.
Admission time for the 2025-2026 academic year, and St. Andrews Senior High School is calling on all those who want to rewrite your WASSCE. If you failed one subject, 2 subjects, or even more, St. Andrews Senior High School is the right place for you. If you want to better your grades and finally get the results you've been working for, come to St. Andrews Senior High School. This year, every student passed with straight A's, 100% success, 0 failures, and you can be next. Over the years, St. Andrews Senior High School has been the #1 best private school in Ghana with excellent teaching staff and ultra-modern facilities that provide students with perfect environment for studies. We also provide comfortable and secure boarding facility to make your study experience even better. And here at St. Andrews, students never fail. So hurry and enroll now. At St. Andrews Senior High School, we say perseverance leads to success.
Welcome back. Now, was 2025 a good year for your business? Will 2026 be the year of growth for your business? How can you ensure you do not miss the numerous Africa opportunities in 2026? Now, join over 400 businesses and policy leaders as experts at Crystal Ball Africa 2026 reveal the opportunities and how to take advantage. The date, Thursday, January 22, 2026. Venue, Legality Beach Hotel. Time, 8:30 to 5 p.m. Theme, the Africa opportunity. Time to take advantage. Don't miss the chance to network and tap into new opportunities. Register now to secure your spot. www.crystalballafrica.com. Our sponsors are EcoBank, Legality Beach Hotel, AGI, Kawamoka, media partners City FM and Joy FM. This event is powered by AB and Davies Africa. Now, it's time now to bring you the Galamsey and Bui Power Plants documentary, which shows how illegal mining activities around the Black Volta River are threatening the survival of the Bui Hydroelectric Power Dam, Ghana's 3rd largest power generation facility. Now, through on the ground reporting, expert analysis, and stakeholder accounts, the documentary exposes how unchecked illegal mining is accelerating siltation, polluting and water resources, and creating security risk that could undermine national power stability.
Ghana's 3rd largest hydroelectric facility, the Bui Dam, built to power industries and homes across the nation, now faces an existential threat.
Mining at the banks or in the river is actually going to worsen the situation. It's going to get to a point where we may not have enough water in the river or in the dam to generate electricity from the middle belt.
This threat is not from nature, but from the surge of Galamsey, or illegal mining activities creeping dangerously close to its lifeline, the Black Volta.
Once a Sebsebio, ye Galamsey Jumano, Yasmedi, Namsi and Kanokore. The Chene Dukrabi or Aminkovavia.
I didn't think do a saba.
In this documentary, Joy News' Nana Aljima exposes the sustainability of the nation's energy security being choked by environmental destruction.
This is worrying. In fact, some of the rivers that were programmed, smaller rivers that were like Pra, Cobra, and the rest, that were programmed to do mini grids, mini electricity generation. I'm not sure today we can do it. Galamsey has actually destroyed those rivers.
Electricity remains the lifeblood of every economy, and for a developing country like Ghana, its role in driving growth and development cannot be overstated. A reliable power supply is central to productivity from industry to household, hence the significant investments in generation capacity. According to the 2025 Energy Outlook for Ghana, the country currently boasts of an installed capacity of 5,260 megawatts, with a dependable capacity of 4,855 megawatts. This is expected to meet the projected system peak demand of 4,125 megawatts, with a reserve margin of 18%. At the heart of Ghana's energy mix is the Bui Generating Station, one of the nation's largest power suppliers, contributing a total of 404 megawatts hydroelectric power with a 250 megawatt solar plant under construction. The hydroelectric facility is built on the Blackfulter River, falling within the Bui National Park, which is managed by the Forestry Commission. Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEP, Benjamin Boachi, speaks of the relevance of the dam on the country's power generation.
If you look at Bui, it's not just about the power it generates or the megawatts that we get from it. It's also very strategic in terms of location. The geography that Bui finds itself within the Ghanaian context is quite strategic, because you need some load in the middle belt to be able to balance your load and be able to ensure that you have great stability and reduce your losses. So in the middle belt, until recently when we sent some power generation to Kumasi, Bui was the anchor. It was the one that was actually preserving the integrity of the grid in the middle belt.
But the upsurge of illegal mining within the reservoirs of the dam threatens the dam's lifespan. Aside from some individuals mining in the Blackfulter, illegal communities are springing up within the reserve. Acting Deputy Chief Executive Officer of the Bui Power Authority, Samuel Nimakumbuatin, speaking to the media in July 2025, explained the authority is overwhelmed by the invasion of its operational area. The interview was on the sidelines of a visit by some top officials of the Ghana Air Force to the BPA.
As we all know, Galamsey has become very rife in the country. All efforts are being exhausted here to extirpate here the activities of Galamsey. And without the military at the forefront of this fight, we cannot achieve anything.
A Joy News investigative team set out to gather evidence of illegal mining along the dam. The team made a 30-minute journey on a boat to one of the communities notorious for illegal mining. This new settlement for illegal miners is named Akufo-Addo. The mission here is to gather facts on the reality of a national security threat posed by the illegal miners and their activities close to power installations. Even before the boat will dock, the noise from the Shamfam engines is heard about 300 meters from the mining area. Upon sighting the boat, which looked different from those plying the route, some of the illegal miners halted operations and most of them took to their heels. Others threw caution to the wind, perpetrating the illegality with impunity. They mine along the banks of the reservoir of the Bui Dam. The area being mined, according to sources, is an extension of the dam in the rainy season. Here, the mining operations mainly involve the digging of small pits about 4 to 5 feet deep and the same size wide. Simple tools like hoes and pickaxes are the main tools deployed for the activity. From the soil dug, they wash for the precious metal. With some fan machines, they pump water from the dam to wash the sand for the gold deposit. This wastewater is diverted back into the dam, leading to the siltation and pollution of the dam. Acting Deputy Chief Executive Officer of the Bui Power Authority, Samuel Nimakumbuatin, says the menace is causing siltation of the dam's reservoirs.
When the Galamsey activities is done, especially upstream, what happens is that it causes siltation of the river. That decreases the effective volume of the reservoir. So if, let's say, we are expecting the reservoir to contain about 100 meter cube of water, because of this Galamsey activity, it will rather reduce it to about 80. And then when it reduces to 80, it means that you have limited amount of water to generate power, and that will affect the power generation.
But the miners insist their activities in the river and its banks cannot harm the dam. One of their leaders, Etu, claims they mine sustainably.
The year dear way, ye 2 way, and Timim cross so careful wimpo, Nankasa ko animal. The Ukase, when ye de way bet me, a causes our problem now. Navi, dear dear, intimate.
Another leader who also gives his name as Abodie is unable to confirm or denying whether their activity pollutes the dam. He says the leadership of the miners often patrol the banks of the river to check against the washing of their tailings into the dam.